When it comes to knowledge and wisdom, we all have things to teach each other. We are all going to have things to learn from each other. And this is why when I talk about the fact that we can use each other to inspire each other, but you don't want to compare yourself to anyone else, is so important. And I had to learn this the hard way, even though I knew it over the last 2 years. New level, old devil. And I want to explain this to you a little bit in this way with this example, though I've kind of talked about this a little bit before. First of all, welcome back. I'm Ann Blackwood, your Silicon Valley Sage Sister, here to bring consciousness to the forefront of your daily life to make life a little kinder and simpler. So, as I've said before, we do not want to compare ourselves to anyone else at any time. We want to compare ourselves to who we were yesterday. And when it came to the teachers that I've had over the last 2 years, because I am always ever revolving between student and teacher, because we all always have more to learn. Just because I've become a teacher doesn't mean I stop being a student. And I had to realize that the teachers that I was having in that moment were different enough from where I was at because of a specific thing that I ended up having to sort of pick apart what was for me and what wasn't. What I realized was that, and this is the example of why you can't compare yourself to anyone else, and just remember, people will have things to teach you just as much as you may have things to teach them. My teachers, the two of them that I had, were experiencing two things at the same time that I wasn't. I had already experienced one of those things and was past it already, as where the other thing that they were teaching about, I was just starting to learn. So because they were teaching these two things at the same time, but I was already past one of them, this made things difficult for me. And I was sitting there wondering, why isn't this working for me? I look, for all intents and purposes, it kind of looks like I should be able to learn from their teachings, because it looks like I'm starting where they started, but I realized that I wasn't starting where they started, because they had two things that they learned at the same time, as where I had already learned one of those things and had something else, the second thing to learn still. So it became very different for me. And I was thinking about this a lot lately, and it just reminded me of why we really can't compare ourselves to other people. Because if I wanted to let my ego get into it, I've heard things my ego has said, like, well, I could be teaching them. You know, like, pretty egotistical thing to say. I could be their coach. And it's not wrong. Because there were things that I had already learned that they hadn't learned yet. There were things that I was learning that they hadn't learned yet. But there were also things that they had learned that I hadn't learned yet. And that's the brilliance of life. We never want to assume that anybody's got it all figured out ever, and that anyone is ahead of us or behind us, because we're all gonna be ahead and behind each other in so many different ways. You just can't look at it like that, because it's rarely ever going to be the case. For instance, another great example of this is when I was 16, I had a boyfriend in high school whose parents I butted heads with. And that was because my emotional maturity at 16 was more advanced than his dad's was at 50. So when I would come to them and want to talk to them, adult to adult, granted I wasn't an adult, but my emotional maturity was more adult. He would just pull the, well, I'm the parent and I say no, so no. Rather than being willing to negotiate or even hear me out. So that was the first time I ever learned that it doesn't matter what age you are. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you know. We are all going to be at different levels with different things at different times. And other people are going to be at different levels with different things at different times. And we all have something to teach each other about something. And we all have something to learn about something. Which is why, once again, we never want to compare ourselves to anyone else ever. We only want to compare ourselves to where we were yesterday, because that is the only gauge that works. That is the only gauge that works. If you want to be at a certain place, trying to look at somebody else and be like, well, that's how they got there. Some of that might help. But in the grand scheme of things, some of that might not work for you. Whoops. I need to learn to turn my alarms off when I'm making these videos. Anyway, there are a lot of things that I've learned in the last year that I tried, that I was open to, that I just realized weren't for me. They inherently didn't feel good to me, and it wasn't because I was blocked for any reason. There are a lot of people that try to use that spiritual idea of being open to everything to judge people and feel judged. And that's silly. There are some things that you're not going to want to do because they're not for you. They're not natural to you. And that is more than okay. There are things that I have learned, that I've seen work amazingly for people, that just don't work for me. I've seen things that work amazingly for me that just don't work for other people. And all of that is more than okay. Which is why you don't want to compare yourself to anybody else. Only who you were yesterday. Let people be an inspiration. But there will always be more to learn. So don't ever let yourself feel less than for not knowing something. That is one of my most favorite things I love to do, is greet the idea of learning with excitement. I love saying, I don't know, because I follow that up with, teach me. Because it is better to be unaware and willing to learn than it is to, well, usually the way, I was trying to make it a little more, I don't know. What I usually say is, it is better to look stupid and learn than be stupid and not. Is that? No. Right. It is better to look stupid and be smart than be stupid and look smart. That's what it was. I haven't said that in a while. It is better to be stupid. No. It is better to look stupid and be smart. That's it. It is better to look stupid and be smart than be stupid and look smart. It's true. It is better to say, I don't know, teach me, than to be like, oh yeah, I totally know that, and not get the information. And all of these things revolve around each other. So, yeah. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me for another video. I swear one of these days I'll remember to turn my alarms off when I shoot a video. Usually I only have them on at night. I'm not used to having them on during the day. But I gotta get going because I've got to get to a client. Speaking of which, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to check out the links in the description. I still have spots available for my one-on-one counseling, coaching, teaching, whatever you need, healing, growth, expanding your consciousness. I'm here for that. If you want to work with me one-on-one, I still have spots available. There's a link in the description down there to connect with me through my free clarity call form as well as my email. Patreon. We got all sorts of fun stuff going up all this week and for the next several weeks on Patreon, including my intuitive lifestyle course, my spirituality 2.0 course, including all of the other things that have gone up in the last 2 years. Definitely want to check that out. If you're not signed up for my mailing list, November's has already gone out, but if you sign up now, you'll be signed up when December's comes around. I only do one email a month. That's it. And that's how you get in on any of my free meditations and workshops that I do. And yeah. May the energy you serve you well. And let's keep making our way through. Thank you guys for joining me for another video. Bye, guys.